Hi everyone, my name is James Soroka and I am here to talk about fair trade. I did a little bit of research and I got really mad really quick. I want to open up a dialogue and ask questions to anyone out there live or on the replay because I don't understand, and it seems like the more research I know, individual people understand things, and not everyone gets their information from the internet. And so I'm trying to do a very smart thing and invert. I want to flip the script and invert and go to the ask people about things that they know from their real life. So, and it's time to post an Instagram photo. Darn it. You got it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. So, I want to be normal. And that's why I named the broadcast, Kate. I want to be normal. It's not a complaining. Oh, there's another one.
I got
You got it. Thank you. This broadcast isn't to complain. I actually have a lot of anxiety. I can feel it. There's another one. Got that one too? Thanks. I get a lot of mixed messages. I get a lot of mixed messages from the internet about what to do, how to live my life. It's another one. You got that one?
Wait, are they all supposed to be at this time?
I have no idea.
Okay, that one I didn't get.
I don't even care. I don't know.
Okay.
I've been posting consistently. It's enough. So, we've been watching the movie The Accountant. Guys, I really don't understand what I am. There's nothing wrong with me. And there's a lot of people who have stuff wrong with them that are really angry at me. Because there's nothing wrong with me. And they tried really hard to convince me that there is. So, I'll finally accept that there's nothing wrong with me. That's a good start. I don't think the next step is yet to know what I want to do. That's the point, though, is I don't need a freaking psychiatrist. I actually don't. I don't. That is perplexing even for me. It's perplexing even for me. I don't. Anybody out there that thinks I need one, you haven't experienced the things that I have. Caitlin here is my witness. I'm about to quote a Kendrick Lamar song on live stream, and I'm like a 25-year-old white boy that talks like a, oh god. There's levels to it. I'm gonna say it so simply. There's levels to it in life and in society, and I might just look like the average dude. I'm really not. And I've been through a lot, and I've done a lot of good things. Been through a lot of cool and unique experiences. It's trained me as a human being. Part of me wonders if I ever should have dropped from boot camp. Because had I known what I was capable of in a good way, had I known what the human that I am, I could have served my country, and like that would have been. But there's more than one way to serve your country, and I think especially now in this pandemic that's showing. So I did some research on fair trade, And essentially, it was started by Mennonites, and it was a way to profitize, uh, create a profit margin and essentially monopolize an industry that wasn't being capitalized. So essentially, charging a decent price for things that were sold for less to middle class Americans that then they would be the middlemen of, while at the same time providing a decent living condition to people who were making the product. And the money. And I'm very mad. And I'm tired of being so mad about everything. But I'm just mad about everything. And every time I want to learn something new, it's like the world is bigger than me. Let me put it that way, as the world is bigger than me. So the other half of the coin is good people seeing an opportunity to help people in need. Catherine says, going into the woods helps with anger. I'm good. I've been baited so many times into these conspiratorial beliefs, even about my own life, that I get this trigger reaction to just go to the negative and go to the skeptical, insane mindset. And it's not who I am. It's not how I think. What I will say is I'm so grateful that it happened. And anybody out there who hears me say that I am grateful for what happened to me would probably think that I'm insane. But what you don't understand, and what I'm hoping to help you understand, is that I made it through to the other side. And that's one half of the equation of why I'm grateful. And the other half of that equation is it taught me things about life that I never would have seen otherwise. Because by nature, before anything that any of you have seen on the internet about me, I'm a very good person. and I've always been. What does the word love mean to me? Says Mike. The word love means to me that I don't have people who do not understand me poking and prodding at me like I'm some sort of science project for them to figure out and ask me questions to better understand a psychology or a pathology within my own individual mind. Okay, that is a Marxist school of thought, and it's very unhealthy to base your human interactions in a way that is, coming from a very unhealthy mind. Julia says, what happened? Doesn't matter anymore, because my mess isn't my message. My mess isn't my message. I was brainwashed. That's the beginning and the end of it. I was brainwashed. And not on a regular level, on a psychotic level with war tactics. And I'm moving on from it. But I am no more than a basic American citizen. And I'm not that special, and people know it. And it did still happen to me. I'm not even that special. And it happened to me because bad people were able to access a book, access information about how to do these kinds of things to people, and they just on free will, and they're getting away with it and being treated like it's just like natural selection instead of something being done about it. It's like it's just natural selection, and it's not okay. But there's another thing. Is the girl safe? Are you kidding me? Are there any humans in the broadcast? Hi, I'm a human being. Caitlin is a human being. And she has a name. She has a name, and her name is Caitlin. Is the girl safe? I am going to invite you out of your tiny, insignificant, infantile bubble. With all due respect to anyone who may feel hurt by me, I apologize for my angry tone. I care so much. I really care. I do, even about you. I'm letting you know, though, that your terminology, although your goal is to make sure that things are well, realize that your verbiage, the words that we use in life, really, really tell a story about who we are. And no one else can paint that story. But disassociation is a real thing. I didn't want to admit that so many people, other than myself, are dissociated from reality. I am not dissociated from reality. I am in recognition that there are two sides to every coin. Two sides to every coin. Excuse me. And I guess that's it. On that basis, but bless you. Thanks, Catherine. And so recognize that I am not anti-religious. I am not pro-religious. I am not pro-capitalist or anti-capitalist. Everyone's poking and prodding at me because they can't figure me out because I'm not a fake. And I'm also not going to subscribe to I'm not going to subscribe to something that I don't know enough about. And I'm also not going to fake it on screen being afraid of the powers that be. Guys, come on. With all due respect, your fear towards the powers that be, you incite a war in your own heart, in your own mind, that doesn't need to be there. Life, it really is so simple. It really is so simple. And yeah, there are a lot of people that dupe us and fool us trying to make money. We're watching The Accountant. But I've definitely learned about life that it's more complex than that. It's so much more complex than that. And there's two sides to every coin, and there's 14 angles to every story. Alright, enough. See, and I'm getting commented at by people that call themselves Shadow Man on YouTube. Shadow Man. People, wake up. This is not healthy. Joe Gal, and it's not me that's unhealthy. It's not. It's really not. I am such a simple dude. I might be intelligent and I might speak complex, but I am a very simple guy. I'm not that hard to figure out, but you can't use these crazy ideas to explain something so small. Like I'm pretty average, and it is that simplistic viewpoint on the world that's really led me to understand a lot of things that people are still sitting there banging their heads on the walls about. You're thinking too much about it. Don't think so much. Sometimes it's not healthy. Bless you. Thank you. Did I block a lot of people? I'm blocking people that are unhealthy. Absolutely. If there are people who are experiencing some form of mental illness that is aggressive in the direction of attacking me, that they show that psychosis, they show those tendencies towards an aggressive, cult-like or stalker-esque behavior, I definitely block that. Or people who are just simply aggressive towards me or insulting without any real give me a brush. Thanks. Without any real goal other than insulting me. Yeah, for sure. You block that. That's a healthy thing to do. Monica says that I should watch the movie Office Space. It's funny. It's super funny. Thank you. Guys, I'm not always this serious. I'm really not. Ask Kate.
We were watching Pitch Perfect.
We were watching Pitch Perfect before this. The human persona, like, we are made to encompass so many different facets of our personality. And those facets of our personality will be exuberated based on the way that we behave in life, because that then draws back to who we are. what I found in life is people that need more complex answers for life are usually, and when I say more complex answers, I mean people are complicated. We're definitely a complicated species. But I think what I'm upset about is so much more simple too. As I come down from all of it and I finally relax, and I'm talking about over an extended period of time. I'm not talking about just, now. It's just, can't control the way things are. Society is the way that it is because that's the way that it is, and there's so much more going on than I understand or that makes sense to me. I got into this mindset that was really drilled into me by the entitled people around me, that if I just stamp my feet, and cry about it, eventually someone will fill me in on how life works. But they don't. They say, well, you have to show me results and then I'll tell you how life works. And so I know, I know when a person is literally just a hater. Trust me, I do. Person trolls me on Twitter to know. I sit here and I will say that I do actually know a lot more about life than most of the people telling me that I need to learn about life. Why I'm upset is because I've given my whole life to this. And I mean my whole life. It is not possible for me to go back and get a job. I've given everything to this, which is only good vibes, is Julia. Yeah, good vibes and bad vibes. Guys, here's the thing though, is like vibes are a wavelength, right? When you think about vibrations, it's a wavelength, and there's high and there's low, and they both have to be there. If we're always just on a high frequency, life, we have to let everything be around. But I think there's a certain level that's just that some people can't handle, other than myself, that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for me either, really. When people are in a certain, when it goes too far. Sounds like you're a deep thinker, says Catherine. Define deep. I'm an expansive thinker. I don't think all that deep about things. I'm a pretty surface level guy. I take things at face value. I take people at their word, which ironically may be part of why things have gone haywire, because I believe that other people, that when they say something, they mean it. Because when I say something, I'm saying what I mean. Not always, but I'm a pretty face value guy. When I make a promise, I keep it. When I say something, I mean it. I keep my commitments. If it's not I don't see word as bond, but I see word as bond when both people keep their promise, right? But when one person keeps the promise while the other person is over here dead fishing them, then what? What do you do? Then you're captive, because that person will keep going. That's been a big experience of my life, is people that'll make a promise with me and then they'll go dead fish on their promise over and over and over, and then find a way to make it my fault. And so I really try to steer clear of those people. But and my heart does go out to negative people. But there's a certain level of negativity that is just not healthy. I do really feel that we are oversensitive as a culture. I definitely feel that we are oversensitive as a culture. I personally feel maybe 15 to 20% too sensitive. I think the sensitivity level is pretty appropriate for the most part, but I think that there's people out there that are, unfortunately, for lack of a better term, trigger happy, and I mean literally trigger happy. That's a problem. It seems like most problems can be traced back to a lack of education. I don't even know what gazoo means. To a lack of education, because you could be born $1 million baby. You could be born to a family who they're millionaires, but if they don't teach you how to do what they do, how are you any different from a foster child? If you grow up in a family empire and you're going to inherit money, if you're not taught anything and you're just raised and given everything, do they really know anything? Are they any different? What would happen if they're separated from that family and put into a regular environment? They would operate rather similarly to anyone else. Maybe worse, because when you give someone something that they don't deserve and then you take it back, well, people get pretty angry. I've seen that. I've given my time to people that don't deserve it, given my energy, my thoughts, my feelings to people that don't deserve it. And when I've retracted it, they've reacted violently. And I mean violently. Personally, I've learned the most wisdom in deep suffering, says Catherine. I agree 100%. I will add to that my former belief, and this was a Christian belief. Now, I am not anti-Christian, and I will say that although speaking out, quote unquote, against my former Christianity may be a convenient benefit of the culture, it is not my narrative. It's not my intent. My intent is to simply inform you of my experience as I had it in that facet, and my experience is of suffering being the goal. So I would go to mass and I would kneel till my knees hurt. I would push myself, and I think suffering, intentional suffering, like delayed gratitude, the whole idea of delayed gratitude is such an important factor in life. Seeking out sufferings, things that make life more difficult, but do teach lessons, so long as it's not unhealthy, I think is definitely a really good driving force and like a teaching tool. If you're doing it for yourself, if you're choosing to go out and do that, or if you're doing it for your God or what have you. But when reductionary thinking and learning through suffering and taking pride in how much that we've been through, as opposed to how much we learned, how much we actually learned, and then saying that, like repetitive learning, like learning through repetition is the lowest form of learning. And it is glorified so much in our culture and in society. Learning by repetition. Take the test, take it home, do your homework, da-da-da. That is repetitious learning, which is actually the lowest form of learning. And for people of higher intelligence, it is actually the most difficult way to learn. I always found that it was impossible to learn by repetition, but when I learned by experience or through learning by osmosis, as in being in the presence of someone doing what I'm trying to learn, I could pick it up like that. Whereas I could sit in a classroom for hours, and people say, well, different people have different learning styles. But there is evidence that those learning styles are based around your level of intelligence, your IQ. Those factors actually play a role, and they're completely disemboweled and ignored in that research. No one, at least from what I've seen, no one is looking at how smart the person is that's learning it, what way they're learning. But people with higher IQs do not do well with learning through repetition. And oftentimes, people of higher IQ and higher energy levels, higher T levels, which is testosterone, those people are considered to have anything from ADD, ADHD to Asperger's. And they're being diagnosed with these mental illnesses, and they're not even ill. They're actually advanced, and they're being raised in extremely backward situations, or situations with absolutely no intellectual advancement opportunities or career opportunities or anything. and then they're just being blasted with medication. And this is here in America. You don't even have to go to another country to see the kind of poverty. And it's funny because I'm not religious anymore, but there's still, I can draw from, speak on Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa said at one time that America is the poorest country in the world. And in many ways, I would absolutely agree with that, because especially after doing some research on fair trade, there are different parts of certain countries where fair trade is being done, and these people are more educated than children in our countries, and they have no resources except for the people around them and the internet sometimes. And they are smarter than our children who are being raised, and like they're given a car in high school, and they have their parents, it's like supposed to be this good stable family, but they absolutely lack intelligence, and they're peaking at a much lower standard about them. And they're sold on this dream, and then by the time they reach the age to cash in on that dream, you might say, there's some sort of major crisis, and then the rug is pulled out from under them. And this has been happening for thousands of years. And I mean thousands. And I can't get too far into that. But those patterns do persist. And it's got to get curious. It's got to get somebody in here. There's 70 people watching. One of you has to be curious about what I'm saying. But when I seek to uncover things, there are two types of people in this world that uncover things, that turn over stones. There are the people with vendettas who want to expose lies and topple the power and grr, right? They're all angry. And then there are the people like myself who are actually seeking answers. I actually want to know what's going on. And I want to learn, if it's better that these kind of things are not in the public. If so, then why? Right? At least give me like a, hey, this is your position in society. This is what you're made for. This is what you're going to do. Just accept it. Well, if I'm going to accept that, I deserve a better answer. That's not entitlement. It's humanity. There's a lot of pieces of my story that do make me look entitled, and they definitely do make me look entitled, because I was born into foster care, but I was raised in one family, and it would appear as though I received, an education, and I got all that, but I didn't. And where I'm at in my life should be partial proof of that. That if I had actually been appropriately applied, that I would definitely not be in the position that I'm in right now. Now the position that I'm in right now is actually much more advantageous and lucrative than any position that I would have been in had I trusted anyone around me. But the fact that I have had to fight so hard to survive, and so hard to stay on top of things, and fight so hard to gain my own intellectual independence in my own education, living here in America as an American citizen, it should say that something is wrong. Because I don't rest on my laurels. I don't ever rest on my laurels. And to rest on my laurels at this point in my life would be to say, my mess is my message. I've accomplished this much so far, and to many of you it may not appear like I've accomplished so much. It might even appear as though it's the opposite. But I have accomplished quite a lot for my age. But moving forward, I do not want to make my mess be my message. I want to set the standard of, why is it... Give me a second. All right. Okay, can you go close the door? Thank you. Oh, hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't see any of these comments. I'm sorry about that. It didn't show. I wasn't scrolling. Julia says hello again. Hi, Julia. I too was fostered and adopted at 6. I'm lucky my adopted family taught me valuable things that helped my life, says Monica. Monica, I will say, if my family did not provide me with anything else, they did provide me with an air of integrity. Now, ironically enough, I have more integrity than my own family. But my family does have a very high integrity compared to people around them. Now, with that, I will say, most people that are or do seem to be of high integrity, when you separate them from their habitat, when you separate them from an environment they're familiar with, as most people do, they act completely out of character. Most people don't actually know how to survive in this world. They know how to operate within their bubble, and if you take them outside of that, they act like malicious and homicidal animals, and that's a fact. You know, I'm no sociopath. I got plenty of feelings, but I have definitely seen a lot of people who sold me on the idea of how trustworthy and honest and integrity driven they were. But the second you question their environment, the second that you put them in a situation, or they essentially drag themselves into a situation of discomfort, even with all their money, their power, their glory, they turn around and look at you, a person living of independence, and say, well, you're not allowed to do that. You know, then you're off. You have a mental illness, or you're an anarchist, or you're this or you're that. And I'm just sitting here saying, no, I'm not. And that actually is the majority basis of why there's so many people angry at me right now. I will not fit in that box, and I've been that way since 2015. That has not changed. And every time I start to see the box closing in on me, I say, whoa, wait, is this a box I want to be in? Right? Because there are certain levels of conformity that I agree with. There's certain levels of social conformity that are absolutely necessary. Like for example, I'm not a Snowden, I'm not a Julian Assange, I'm not one of those type of people. I'm not. But I'm also not a freedom fighter, and I'm not like I have a lot of I'm nots, and I'm still trying to figure out who I actually am. Who I am is the hard part for me, and it seems to be the hard part for everyone else too. I mean, there's a lot of people who want to say it's easy for them, but they don't know me. But I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And I've got the rest of my life to figure it out. Don Smith, welcome on. How are you? Oh my gosh. Privet Natya. No, it's not. Yeah. I cannot remember. Hi, Nastya. No, that's Russian. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, though. Thank you. Ukrainian. Nastya, remind me how to say hello and how are you? How to greet you. It's been a very long time. How are you? I don't think you've ever even seen Nastya. Nastya, she was here when I was going viral with Call of Duty. This is back in 2018. You want to come here? I'll show you. Nastya was here a long time ago. Yeah, right there. See? Anastasia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very sweet girl. Very nice.
Hi.
She's from Ukraine. But I don't know if she's from the Ukraine right now, but she's Ukrainian. But Julie says, yeah, but you're a deep thinker. That's a fact now. Am I a deep... How do we define a deep thinker? How do we define a deep thinker? How do we define that? Adaptive Rider Bear says, what is it you want to know about? Essentially, first, I'd like to know why there are so many people that behave like computers that have shorted out. Like, if you notice, somebody literally commented like the exact same thing like 6 or 7 times. The only thing that reminds me of is a computer that is stuck on the startup screen. That's what that makes me think of. It's like someone hears what I'm saying and they cannot compute. Like their RAM can't, they can't handle it. And they just and they shut down. And that's the only thing I could really compare it to, because at the end of the day, our brains are supercomputers. That's what they are. They're computers. So you got to wonder, how is it that there are people in this world who are so smart, and yet you talk to them about something that... But I guess that goes both ways, because that would include me too when I get upset about things. It seems like most of the time in life when we get angry about something, or we get defiant or in denial about it, it's because we don't understand it. And something that's easier to do than learn to understand it is to get angry, get upset, be in denial. Something else I did take from the church was seek to understand rather than be understood. But that came even before the Catholic Church. That was a saying that was adopted by the Catholic Church and then was adopted by Stephen Covey. But that's a lot of wisdom in life. You can find it far before thousands of years ago. But it seems like humanity has gotten into this loop, and we're getting into smaller and smaller loops. And that makes me curious. And curiosity is definitely a symbol of my personality. It says, I see your point. I missed you. Wow, yeah, I miss you too, Nastia. It's good to see you. You're very lighthearted, and that's always nice to have. Caitlin's here. She's super lighthearted. We have some decent people in here. I want to say thank you to everybody who's chilling with us, who is just the average bear, because sometimes I do get so lost in my own thought, and it's good to have people around me that are very lighthearted, because I can get so heavy, and that's just, I don't think it's healthy for me to be that heavy all the time. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Privet Katila. All right, there you go. Хорошо. Katila. And don't worry, you are as normal as someone that I can deduce is not normal. How is your isolation? Do you believe in this pandemic? Something else I like about Nastia and our Ukrainian friends is they do not take anything seriously, and that can be fun. Unless it's a pandemic, then it's probably better to take it seriously. But do I believe in this pandemic? How is my isolation? The isolation is going very well. Where we're at, we are able to just leave the door open, have the window open, and be safe and enjoy nature. That's nice. Do I believe in the pandemic? I definitely do. You're not even laughing. You're trying really hard not to laugh. I can see it. I got it. I got the laugh. See, guys, I am semi-normal. I can't. I love you. I'm not embarrassed. Why won't you? What is the matter? It's okay to laugh. See, it's because this was so heavy. So the laughter is okay. It's okay. That's sometimes you gotta take it wherever it comes, and sometimes it comes right out my butt. That's just how it is. But it may not be kosher. It may not be professional. I might not be the most poised man in the world just yet, Kate. But stick around. Most people give up on me, and that's their loss. It looks like genocide. What do you think? Oh God. I don't know. Nastia, I live in America, so I'm very limited on what I can talk about. But I get your point. Up in the pocket. Up in the pocket says, I think you're a cool guy who's just telling it how it is. Give you props. Thank you. I'll take the props because, it's better just to be simple and honest and sometimes deep. Being yourself. I don't like who I am. I'm not completely me. So I'm not insecure. I guess that would make me insecure, because to be insecure about yourself would be to not be secure about yourself. There's a lot of facets of my personality that I'm exuding. I'm not really living well. Like, I used to work out a lot, and I was a very fit guy. I talked like a normal person. I had a very salesman type attitude. I could say smooth talk people in a good way, right? And to get into conversation and get to know people. And it's like we watch TV and we get programmed and sold on these ideas that your personality has to be this way or this way, and that's the category that you fit into. But that's not actually who I am. The next step of that, though, is I see there's a lot of people within social media and on the internet who they find themselves fully, and then in order to create a stream of income, for a stream of income, they will go ahead and only exude a certain part of their personality. And it's funny because to each their own reward. To each their own reward, because the people that do that ultimately cause ruptures within their own personality. They spend their lives in identity crisis because they only share one part of their personality with the world, and that's how the world defines them. And then they feel trapped within that one portion of their personality, and they lose themselves no different than the people of the average public. There's no winner in that equation. They're both losers. Trust me. So clever isn't smart. Clever is not smart. I'm not being clever right now. We probably a lot of us would agree that I'm not all that smart, just saying it outright. It's not that smart. But I'd rather be dumb and honest. That's just me. Clever people are often miserable, and they're angry and aggressive and they lie and they cheat and they steal. I do none of those things. I am not clever. I could be if I wanted to be, but you know what's better than being clever? Being honest. Life is too short. Up in the Pocket says, it's normal to look in the mirror and not like who you are. I deal with it almost every day. Every day, my daughter's mothers always say I'm never good enough. You'll never be good enough to the wrong people. I would sit here and try to help you find who your right people were, if I knew who my right people were. And that advice is solicited advice, but it is in the understanding that I'm not a professional and I'm not responsible for any choices you make within the realm of what I just said. So. Chastity says, what do you feel are your best and worst qualities? Define a worst quality. Worst. Like as in the least refined? Because every quality within the human personality is quote unquote a useful thing, depending on how it's used, or not using it at all. There are parts of our personality that are unhealthy to use, obviously, and it's better to not use them at all. But we still have them. And sometimes the value that those personality traits hold within themselves, it exists within our discipline of not using them. The discipline that we grow, using them, and knowing how to discipline ourselves not to use them. There are certain parts of human nature you can't get rid of. They're there. But it's okay that they're there, as long as you have the discipline to maintain them and keep them from coming out. Welcome on, Masha. How are you? Maggie, I'm careful not to read things that are going to be unhealthy for me. I can learn from people. I don't need the book. What are your views on relationships? How do you find your partner? And what makes a long-lasting relationship? I'm good, thank you. Good. Oh, God. All right. Well, first off, I'm not a professional for advice. All right. I had a dude blame me for losing 40 grand on Bitcoin. And I'm sitting here like, I don't think I ever did. Do I look like a Bitcoin professional? So I I always make sure to I always make sure to lay that groundwork from now on. Like, hey guys, I don't know you, so whatever you decide to do with your life, but if you ask me a question, whatever you do with it, it's on you. But I'm happy to answer. What? Oh, allegedly. Kate says, yeah, allegedly that happened, but you get the point. Science Elf says, what are your views on relationships? So I would need more context on that question, like if you could be more specific. But how did you find your partner? We met when I was still trying to please everyone else. I was trying to go to college. And it was not my time for college, if ever. And that is where I met my partner. I met my partner at college, at campus ministry, nonetheless. What makes a long-lasting relationship? The basic stuff. It's the basic stuff that you'll find in secular theology, and you'll also find it in, whether it's Christianity. I mean, there's certain religions that obviously are a bit off about that. There's, having several wives might not be the greatest thing for anyone, but, to each their own. To each their own. I can't judge. I don't know enough. What I do know is what's working for me, and that is being steadfast to Caitlin, keeping boundaries. We have certain traditional views about our gender, but we also have many progressive and fluid views about the way that we run our relationship. We're not like, I am man, you are woman, and, how do I explain that? I don't think she came from my rib. Let's say it that way. It's like, we're equals in this relationship, and the dynamic, it's so difficult, because the dynamic of a relationship is very much based on those two people. It's hard enough to understand one human being. You throw two together, especially when they have different sexual organs, and they're like, different sets of hormones and lifestyles. There's so much. There are very few things that I would like to admit to be subjective. I'm a very objective person, but I definitely have to say that there's a lot of things within a relationship that are going to be subjective, to a degree of health. Like, if it's creating a mindset where it's not a healthy dynamic based on the majority standards, then it's probably not good. But you also have to be willing to take in outside factors. So, for example, Caitlin and I, we had a time of about a month where we had large disagreements, and then we had one big falling out one day. And it was mostly due to our environment. There's a lot of small thinkers that look from the outside and judge, but they don't know. I was dealing with some pretty heavy hitters. No pun intended. Outside of Caitlin and myself, and I managed it. We found a way through it. There's a lot of people who try to get me to fight with them. That is their way of making money or having fun. In a very ironic sense, you might say that I was attacked by gold, God, and glory. I had a man who was in our environment who saw himself as God and was the absolute embodiment of Luciferianism in every possible way without actually worshiping the religion. And tongue of a snake. Another man who was gold, who definitely embodied the idealisms of just a capitalistic, very elitist without being elite. And that insecurity led him to attack me. And then third was Glory. And that was a guy who said he wanted nothing from me. But sure as hell, he wanted the attention. Sometimes people seek out things and they don't really know what they're asking for. And And you got to be careful what you ask man for, because you can ask God for things. And in my opinion, God will give you what you need rather than what you want. Whereas when you ask man for things, he will often give you what you want. He or she, right? Not just man, but woman, will give you what you want, but it'll be on their terms. That is far more dangerous than being patient and working it through on your own if you have to. That's been my experience. Yes, I understand. Chris Hall says, honest, what is your view on the shadow self? I don't even know what the shadow self is. What is the shadow self? What?
I forget.
Let him tell me, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Love you. I'm treading very, very lightly here, and me talking right now is extremely difficult. And so it is about control and focus. Thank you for giving me that. I appreciate it a lot. I love you. Thank you. This is taking a lot for me right now. Eric, welcome from Dallas. How are you? You have to laugh at this one. Okay, Swamp Donkey says, a time of the month you have huge disagreements, huh? Oh, the irony. Who's Michael? What is going on? Okay. Anyway, all right. So it all worked out. I've learned a hell of a lot. Fair trade. Fair trade. Okay. I'm going to tell you on my own personal intellectual level. I look at the world at this point being poor as all get out, having nothing to my name, having been brainwashed on a war tactic level, getting myself back, coming to life, waking up, trying to figure things out with my girlfriend, all in the same breath, while trying to run the platform, enjoy a little TV, talk to our without sounding like a weirdo, which is going well. It's actually going really well. Get back on track physically. I look at the world as it stands, and I want this to be my record. You know, I want this to be my legacy. Whatever I had to say, I want someone to throw it in my face one day. The difference between me and other people, I don't run away from my own words. Back to me and say, hey, you said this at this point, what's changed? Or are you a hypocrite? Or blah, blah, blah. Good, bring it to me, I'll let you know. Because I won't have an excuse, I'll have an explanation on how I've changed. Or I'll have an explanation on how I'm the same, and how I have better context with the thing that I had a hunch about way back when. So what do I say? Doesn't really matter, because I don't know. And I think that's the best part, is that I don't know. Life would be so boring if I actually knew for sure that I had all the answers. Isn't it better not to know sometimes? Ignorance can be bliss. There's been a million times over the last 5 years where I have been blissfully unaware to something that had been happening that if I was aware, I may have panicked. And then I would have reacted in an unhealthy way that could have got me in trouble or even killed. And I'll start with the simplistic times. And those patterns continue. It's where God keeps me safe. God really does keep me safe by keeping me dumb. And when I make it through the situations, people will disbelieve that I made it through. Asterix, thank you for the $14 super chat and welcome on. Bowie Girl says, with all that's going on in the world, it's difficult to think straight, in my opinion. I agree. It's difficult to keep your mind on track with everything that's going on. Definitely. All right. Chastity, I do not like having my brain picked like I'm an animal. I really don't. And I don't like being treated as if I really am some stupid guy that's just spouting off and I don't know what I'm talking about. In a lot of ways I do. And I like talking with people of any walk of life. I don't like the elitist mindset. Like I said, I'm in part an elitist in certain parts of the ways that I believe about the world, but in others not so much. I think it's annoying to be told, hey, well, you're wealthy or you're smart or you're this, you're not allowed to talk to those people. Whether it's poor people being told they can't talk to rich people, or rich people being told they can't talk to poor people. Because trust me, it does go both ways. We just oftentimes have a tendency to demonize the other side of the coin. I'm in a good, healthy place now. Much more than I used to be. And I can see so clearly, and it is the coolest thing in the world. It's so freaking cool. Because I see people who are at the top of the game and they are so insecure. And I'm just like, whoa. Like, it's like a veil lifted. You know when you learn something and you had a perception on something and then you see how things are and it just snaps you out of that perception? There are so many people within, especially the game of social media, who they are average people who are very good magicians. They know how to play a good trick. And that's their job, right? That's their profession. The art of deception is their job. It's their job. So it's very amazing, though, because I used to idolize these people. Whereas now I see they're regular people that have perfected a craft. And that craft is what they are, not who they are. I don't even know what you say my craft is. Talking. Talking is a part of my craft. It's how I communicate my craft. My craft is the mind. Complexity is the mind, I guess you might say. But treat people on social media like regular people, because they actually are. And deitizing someone because they are a master of their craft is dehumanizing and dissociative, and it's very disrespectful and hurtful. It's actually hurtful. It's not helpful. And oftentimes it makes those people feel that they're treated inhumane. They feel less than human. And we all know what that feels like. And to say, well, somebody has money, they have this, it's all fluid. I know how existential that sounds, but I kid you not. Everything, so many things in life are just fluid. They're not that concrete. And they're not so easily explained. But when you have the explanation, professionals make things look easy. That's what they do. That's essentially their job. And they make something very hard look easy. This is my craft. And I want to remain humble about it, while at the same time trying to speak in such a way that it doesn't demean my own confidence, because I want people to understand myself as well as other people in my industry and realize that my ability to hold a conversation and be able to talk and have 100 people in the room when there's almost nothing going on, right? I mean, we're just talking here. Well, that must mean something. And it's not just about the negative stuff. It's not. Because as I look at other influencers around me, those people, like, it's the 1% skill. What is your 1% skill? I've had to fight so hard for my 1% skill because of so many variables around me. And another part of being that has really been because there's been so much standing against me. Plus, I've been a little bit too far ahead of my time up until now. And even now, I'm wondering, am I still a little too far ahead? That's changing as the climate changes within social media. A lot of the things that are being done now in social media that are considered mainstream, I was doing them back in 2012 and 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and now everything down to apps that were brand new, like had just come out and I was using them. And now they are like top in the app store, some of them. And I had never recognized these things as factors that I should pay attention to. Because even at the time, to me, I was just a curious kid. But now I'm finally seeing that I have a skill and I want people to know it, but I also want to reject the pride. There's so much, and people get so pissed about that, is I want to reject it because it's poison. It's a positivity that isn't real. It is an illusion. And what I mean by that is I don't own it. There may be 170 people in the broadcast, but guess what? I didn't put them there. The YouTube algorithm did. You did. I didn't do that. And the moment I take credit for it, that's a lie. And that's me feeding into my own BS. And then I lose myself the way that I did a couple of years ago. And that can't happen this time around. So I put my head down. I stay humble. I say that I'm grateful. And I don't know what the hell is going to happen in the next couple of weeks of our life. But we're going to figure it out. I always do. And with Caitlin on board, we can figure out even more. So, it's good. So true, says Boy Girl. And it's a possibility that that's not even real. Because we barely have any comments right now. So what do I say about that? Is this is more evidence for you of what's been done to me over the past couple of years. That people have used psychological warfare against me to get me high or low or make me look crazy because the second I say something about it, right? Or it sabotages my platform. Put me in a position where I can't use my voice. That has always been the goal of these people who are against me. Shut him up. Just shut him up, shut him up, shut him up. That's all these people want to do is shut me up. You can't shut me up. The sooner you learn that, the better. It doesn't happen. It is impossible to shut me up. And at this point, so many people have heard me say certain things that if someone were to shut me up in real life, there would be too many questions. And people know that, which is actually why I'm still alive. Might be hard to believe, might sound crazy. Well, what can we frame on them? What can we put them away for? What can we... anything. And it's not paranoia. You can ask my girlfriend. But most people would say that she's just... she's just a little girl when she's 20 years old. Why? Discredit her. Discredit. That's all it comes down to. And you gotta wonder that if at this point, is there money involved? Is there money involved? Because what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Because I know at this point I'm not the crazy one. So why are people doing crazy things to hurt me? If I'm not the crazy one, why am I surrounded by so many crazy people? Something's off here, and I'm not crazy. If I can leave the house, have a normal conversation with my neighbor, and Kate as a witness, it's a normal conversation, I'm not misinterpreting the conversation, it's all normal. We're having a normal life, doing normal things. I'm normal, deep thinker, like you might say, but normal. What's going on? Something's off, and it's not me. Excuse me. Ray Hope says, "Did you guys get your own place? You guys look so much happier." Ray Hope, we are much happier. And guys, if I don't answer a question, it's because I don't want to. I lived in Georgia. It was so good for me. I say it saved my life. Sorry, off topic. That's great. That's great. Can you possibly get that?
What is it?
Story.
I don't think it's...
And another piece of this is there are people waiting for me to screenshot and use this. And I'm not gonna. It's Suicide Squad. Have you seen it?
No.
Pulling through?
No.
Alright, I have to go. Suicide Squad is one of my favorite movies ever. I first saw it in 2016 when I was walking across America. So, I will talk to you all very soon. Very excited. Very good movie. You're not even interested in it.
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. Alright, let me get... Chris says, the shadow self is the darker side of ourselves that would be described as irrational, non-empathetic, or destructive, either to the self or others. Would you say the balance is necessary to let both out? Chris Halls, I will say that at the epicenter and the core of our human self, what is it called? Our frontal lobe, we got our conscious and the subconscious. I think that dualism in itself splits the spirit in two. Our subconscious is made to work directly with our conscience, with our conscious mind, and when they don't work together, can be very dangerous for the quote-unquote self. So dualism is not necessarily an idealism that I embody within my own philosophy in life, but it is one that I will entertain and conversate about for the sake of other people, because most people do think in a dualistic fashion. Like good and evil and things like that. So shadow self is not something that I necessarily associate with or believe in, but dark side of ourselves would be described as irrational. Now, what is rationale? Rationale is very subjective. If someone appears to be irrational, it is still rationale to them. It is still their rationale. For example, I once met a girl who had issues, and she wore a bra on her head. And she had some stuff going on. That was to her in her mind. That was rational, right? That was a rational thing to do. If we're ever going to help someone to coalesce and have a rationale that is socially productive and healthy for them, it starts with respecting their rationale. It starts with having the ability to put yourself in their shoes as much as humanly possible. Now, obviously, there are some frames of thought that are, maybe incomprehensible, but with science and technology and, our ability to really think through these things much better than we used to even 50 years ago, I think there could be a lot of improvements within the realms of mental health in reference to what is rational and irrational. And as far as empathy, it is my belief that 99.99% of the human population experiences empathy on some level, but that level of empathy has a lot to do, ironically, with their rationale. So rather than not being empathetic, it is just that they don't have an ability to experience empathy in a healthy way. Where people say that people, are sociopaths, from my own personal observations, I haven't seen that many people actually be sociopathic. I've seen people who, when they experience a situation where empathy would be appropriate, they experience anger or they experience some other unhealthy emotion, which wouldn't necessarily speak to sociopathy, but rather just, like I said, an alternate rationale, an unhealthy rationale due to whatever experiences that they've had. I used to talk to someone who always called himself an a-hole, always called himself an a-hole, and always talked about what a bad person he is, and he's going to hell, and that irrationality, that what I would call irrational, it's a rationale to that person, right? It's to be respected because that's the world that person lives in their mind. Now, whether or not that has to do with anything they may or may not have done, that's going to change it, right? But our human experiences play a big role in what creates our rationale, which then helps us experience empathy. So, I mean, me personally, I experience a lot of empathy. I'm a very empathetic person. My problem over the last few years has actually been the opposite of what people have been trying to say about me these days, is I have actually had too much empathy. I've been overly empathetic, not the other way around. You're only seeing, anybody that shows my content, you're only seeing little blips and highlights over literally a span of 5 years. And you couldn't get more than, over those 5 years, you couldn't get more than 7 days worth of me being a monster, like being completely mean. So you got to think of it that way. Does it justify me being angry at people? No, it doesn't. But realistically, I was being attacked on a psychotic level, and my reactions to that were pretty natural. They're pretty normal. I mean, most people would have reacted far worse than I did. So, people want to paint it on me, and then they disappear into the background, and life doesn't work that way. I'm just really hoping that, people learn that sooner than later, before we're all drug into some annoying thing that will take forever, and then when I get out on the other end of it, I'm actually just going to look like the bad guy, because I'm going to get out of it being okay, and it's going to make it look bad, and it's just going to make it that much harder to actually help people, and it was really just because a whole bunch of bad people wanted to get away with what they did, and they will not get away with what they did, but then it'll look like I was one of them, and I got away with something, and I didn't. And it's probably going to be blamed on my skin color, and a couple other factors. So, such is life. But I'm really hoping that things just continue in a positive, normal, healthy direction. And what I am coming to see is that that's based on what I focus on and who I focus on. So I have to create that reality if I want it. I was just never a big believer in manifestation. I was never a big believer in, my life becomes what I make it, because I always saw the world as so big, a way of trying to be humble. But I am starting to see that my life becomes whatever I choose to make it. Did I see the documentary, says Ella. What documentary? Hamburgers, says Drogon. I'm down for hamburgers. Jason Morrill, welcome on. I'm doing very well. How are you? You're having chicken, ribs, and veggies. I'm down for it. Yum. What do I see? Looks like something is kissing. I'm not having burgers. I'm just thinking about them. Just mulling over a good burger in my mind's eye. Goes Drogon. Jason goes, I went and picked up Mexican food. I'm down for Mexican food. Have a good night. You too, Monica. Welcome on, Nor. But chicken and ribs sounds amazing. Oh, I'm jealous, says Ella. Where did Bowie Girl go? I don't know. I hope things get better. Jason, they're pretty darn good. They're going very well. Guys, if you're not on our other platforms, if you're not on Instagram, if you're not on Snapchat, if you're not on, where else are we? Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, even Twitter on Periscope. Things are going pretty well. If you're here on YouTube, you're seeing us like once, twice a week. You're not all that filled in. I'd recommend getting caught up elsewhere, because, it's like you're very behind if you're just here. And I'd like to see you. I'd like to see you elsewhere. I'd like to have you live elsewhere, not just here on YouTube, because you're not getting You're not getting our life in full. A lot of creators will just blast the same content on every platform. I try to have something different everywhere. Grilling steaks here, says Karen, with shrimp cocktail. Yum. Good grilling weather. Definitely. Drogan says, or Drogan, I'm excited, says Ella. Karen, yummy. Jason says, shrimp cocktail is the bomb. Chris says, thank you very much for answering me. All the best to you. You too, Chris. Thanks for stopping in with that red cocktail sauce. Happy Mum's Day to all the mums, says Ella. Absolutely. Karen says, my favorite. Ella says, I got rid of my Snapchat. I didn't use it often. I'm more of a YouTube person. It's all good. It's all good. And thank you for just having basic conversation, bringing me back down to earth. Like I said, sometimes I get in my own thought, and I get on a roller coaster with myself, and I forget that there's other people on it with me. So, sorry. Sorry if I bored you. I'm gonna go watch Suicide Squad with Kate, and hopefully you decide to join us on Instagram or Twitter, because this is not the only way that I talk. So, I'd like for you to know that I'm a pretty regular person beyond when I get talking like this. So, that's healthy to speak your mind. Yeah, even depending on what people think about it, I guess, huh? But I do appreciate you all being here. So, I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening. Or just being here. Either way. Thank you.